it is the takeover day on the SEC network, which Tennessee will be featured in a ton of games over the past year. They do this for every SEC team. So it started at midnight. If you were up watching it at midnight, God bless you. You're a huge Tennessee fan, and I'll send you an off the hook t-shirt. How about that? But first, we're going to get to today's tough question, which has to deal with that very thing, and that's the Tennessee takeover. It's brought to you today by Zen Sports.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Best answer to today's tough question. You got to surprise me. You got to challenge me. We'll get a t-shirt, an Off the Hook Sports t-shirt. You'll love it. It says Hooker right across the front. Maybe a little bit more relevant last year when that was a quarterback, but still, Milton was copyrighted. And it's not my last name. So here we go. Today's tough question, other than the Alabama game, take it away. That's off the board. What was the most, do you want to go meaningful or memorable games of the past athletic fiscal year, brought to you by Zen Sports? I'll tell you more about them in just a second. You pick it. You pick the word, and I'll follow your lead, sir.
I'm going to give you a crazy one that people don't think about, but we talked about it right after it happened. I think the Pittsburgh game is really what got Tennessee football going last year. I think that overtime.
Okay, so are we going meaningful or memorable?
Meaningful.
Okay. Meaningful, I'm with you. But I'm going to go in another direction on memorable. So let's go meaningful. The most meaningful moment last year. I love your pick of Pitt. Go ahead and fill out on the message board the most meaningful moment of last year, other than the Alabama game. Caleb, roll.
Yeah. So the reason the Pittsburgh game, it reminds me of, and we've listened to a lot of our Celebrate 98 stuff, and one of the things that stands out a lot was the win over Florida really got them going. That was more significant than even the Florida State win. And the reason was it kind of gave the confidence they needed. I think that win over Pitt really opened the eyes of Tennessee fans and Tennessee players of, oh, we just beat Pitt. Yes, we should have beaten them by more. Yes, it was an overtime win and an ugly game, but that was a top 25 road win. And you got Florida coming to town next week with the new head coach. You get to go visit LSU at noon with the new head coach. That those chips are falling where they may, and you should easily take advantage of those. So Pitt, I think, was their toughest mental hurdle. And once they got past Pitt, they realized a 5-0 start was on the table. And then once they got to 5-0, they had all the confidence they needed for that Alabama game, and which is why they pulled off that upset. So I think Pitt really set the dominoes in motion for them.
Okay, let me set you up for another one. What is Tennessee's record if they don't pull that out against Pitt? Because that would have a confidence impact more than just an impact on the win-loss record. What does Tennessee finish if they don't get that win at Pitt?
Oh, they're 8-4. They lose to Florida 2 weeks later, and they lose to Alabama.
Wow, that's strong.
Do you think about the Florida game? Don't forget the Florida game. They were trailing in the first half, and Florida had the ball. Do you think Tennessee has the mental toughness to overcome that, given all the history of Florida and having lost to Pitt 2 weeks ago? Had they lost to Pitt?
Probably not. I'm going to go in a different direction, and some people are going to probably get upset with me on that. But I'm going to say the most memorable moment has to be the South Carolina game, because it was all laid out there, and we thought we had it figured out, and Tennessee had beaten Alabama. I could make a strong argument right now that that's more memorable than the Alabama game, but the Alabama win set up the South Carolina debacle. And I really believe that this could be a good thing for Tennessee long term. I don't think that they're going to have the mindset of overlooking anyone. I think there was a guy in Jeremy Banks that was a Pruitt recruit that probably was not real fond of the fact that Pruitt was gone and he was under a different coach, and Jeremy Banks created a distraction. So I think that will signify the end of whatever fractured sort of roster you might have. Because some guys are Pruitt guys still. I know that sounds crazy, and some guys are Heupel guys, but I think that's all over now. I think the Pruitt guys mainly are gone unless there was some double red shirt. I mean, they should all be gone by now, shouldn't they? Caleb, pretty close after
There's
this
still quite a
season.
few. I mean, even two of the
After this
people.
season.
Oh, after this season. Yes, but there are still because of the COVID year and the redshirt year, you could have Pruitt guys all the way through 2025. Because Amari Thomas and Cooper Mays could both be back in 2024. So it's kind
True.
of.
I don't think Cooper is going to be based off those conversations, but I'll ask him on the Vol Report, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning today, as a matter of fact. But we shall see. So I would have to say the most memorable to me is South Carolina, because I thought Tennessee had a chance against Alabama. I thought Georgia was significantly better at the time, especially at home, and motivated by some preseason talk. But Caleb, to me, the one I'll always remember, and you ask me 10 years from now, and I don't want to sound like a pessimist, but I will remember the South Carolina game because I thought it was done and done. I thought Tennessee was going to be in the college football playoff or the fifth team and one out. Either way, for content purposes, it would have been great for us. Instead, they lose to South Carolina. And, the most memorable game, maybe for me, maybe it says something about me, was the 2001 SEC championship game. So maybe that's how my brain is wired, is I remember big losses as much as big wins. What does that say about me as a person, Caleb?
I mean, it's you sound like a coach. Coaches always will say the same thing. Now, the difference is that 2001 SEC championship game, that was more than just a loss. That was a changing of the guard in college football. Tennessee, to this day, has never recovered from that loss. And I don't think the South Carolina game will be that bad. There's also this point. The South Carolina game could have a major silver lining that we don't know about. And I'm gonna do a comparison, Dave. It has a silver lining similar to the Orange Bowl against Nebraska in 1997 when Tennessee lost 42-17, which is this. Hendon Hooker getting hurt is what forced Joe Milton to take all the first team reps. We wouldn't know about Joe Milton in the Orange Bowl had that not happened. The same way in 97-98 with Nebraska, the team really didn't know what they had in T. Martin until Peyton Manning got hurt in the SEC title game. And I think Martin took most of the first team reps in the Orange Bowl preparations, didn't he? And
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because if you remember, Peyton Manning had the bursa sac in his knee and showed up on David Letterman with it swollen, which he shouldn't have done because then Nebraska knew that he would be even more of a statue in the pocket. But that's going way back and showing my age.
Yeah, no, but it's a known thing. And T. Martin did throw a touchdown pass late against Nebraska, and I do think that was the first sign where the Tennessee players. I don't know about the fans. You could tell me more about that. If the fans saw promise in T. Martin when they saw that game, but I think the Tennessee players definitely, that was when they first started to get confidence in T. Martin, wasn't it? Right around then.
Yes, and I think a lot of players thought that T. Martin should have played that entire Orange Bowl game, to be real honest with you. And they didn't think that Peyton Manning was able to play, but it was Peyton Manning's last game. He had just lost the Heisman. So they didn't want to besmirch him. The coaches didn't, but I don't know that he should have been playing. I'll give you another one. I'll give you two more, most memorable. And then you pick one from basketball, if you will. And it's brought to you by Zen Sports, the new sports book in Tennessee, revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. That means no more deposit bonuses that turn into deposit nightmares. On Zen Sports, what you see is what you get with their cash rewards program. You get a lot of cash. For a welcome bonus, earn an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for your first 15 days when you sign up with the code HOOKED. That's HOOKED, HOOKED. That's right, unlimited 5% cash back. Keep betting, keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month after that. And refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards too. Zen Sports bringing the cash back to Tennessee. So if you bet big on sports, you want to be betting on Zen Sports. Zen Sports betting just got better. Somebody on the message board mentioned LSU. So let's break down memorable moments for a moment, if we can, of the football season. So Pitt, we learned that Tennessee had some toughness. LSU, we learned that Tennessee had enough explosiveness where if a team came out and didn't play well early, they could get blown out. The location or stadium didn't matter. Alabama, we learned that Tennessee had an awful lot of moxie. How about the Kentucky game? in which Tennessee played so well defensively against, knock him if you want, but against a guy that was a highly thought of quarterback prospect. So there were a lot of memorable moments that Tennessee had from its football season. If we went basketball or any other sport, is there one that stands out to you as the most memorable moment from the past fiscal athletic year?
So basketball, they beat a number one Alabama team in basketball this year too, which was memorable. But I thought that was that. It's funny they beat Alabama in basketball when Alabama was number one, but that wasn't shocking to any of us who had covered this team this past year. And honestly, it didn't change any of the negative opinions I had about Tennessee basketball. So I thought what was more impressive was their Duke win in the NCAA tournament. I thought that actually was a memorable moment because I didn't think they had that in them to beat Duke the way they did. And so that stood out to me.
If it's a bunch of Caleb's and Dave's, it's still Duke, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they're
exactly.
still wearing a Duke jersey. It's like, that's pretty good.
Well, and Tennessee at Thompson Bowling Arena was so good this year. You had faith in Rick Barnes at Thompson Bowling Arena. You don't have faith in Rick Barnes against teams that are evenly matched with him in the NCAA tournament because his track record is horrible in those situations. So beating Duke really stood out. I'll also say in baseball, and here's a big one, and this was shown at 1:30 this morning. Don't forget that 17-1 win over Vanderbilt early this year. The sweep of Vanderbilt is what turned the baseball program around and got them rolling to go to the College World Series. Because if you remember, right before that sweep of Vanderbilt, they had been swept by Arkansas. They had lost 2 of 3 to Florida, and they had lost 2 of 3 to LSU the previous 3 weekends. And then they're playing the number 2 ranked Commodores, and they sweep them. And that totally changed things for the baseball program. So I think that was a really, really, really big win for baseball. So women's basketball, the big one they have is, and it does stand out, was beating LSU in the SEC tournament. Women's basketball didn't have a lot of big wins this year. They were hitting par. They didn't beat any great teams typically, except for that LSU win, and they didn't lose to any bad teams. So that one stands out.